Hey everybody, this is WWE Champion, Chicago's own straight edge superstar CM Punk, and you are watching PWR on My 24 Milwaukee.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime, episode number 812. And one could argue that the previous 811 episodes may not matter as much as this episode will tonight, because joining us here in the studio is the legendary, iconic, Mean Gene Okerlund. Gene, how the heck are you, my friend?
Well, I'm very, very good and better since I got here with the two of you. This is a little reunion we don't have enough of.
We don't. It was a few years back. You were in our studios before, and that was such a treat that we are.
Wait a minute. We were in Vegas together. He's my alibi. He knows I wasn't getting myself in trouble.
Gene, here's what has happened. So
I've covered for him before, you know.
Oh, and I hope you don't this time, because there are congressional hearings going on right now in regards to this situation. He was in Vegas, Cauliflower Alley Club. You were there as well. And amongst others, and he came back with we sent him with a budget of $2,500 to spend over the course of the 3 days he was there. Mm-hmm. He spent $27,000, Gene.
Well, you know, I kind of saw it coming.
I don't think he did, though.
Well,
I paid for it.
I don't roll the dice that often, so.
But you've got great friends in Vegas. Have you heard about any of his shenanigans? $27,000 in 3 days.
Listen, I was his running mate on a couple of them, so I got a very good idea.
The budget is unlimited when it comes to you, Gene, but for him to spend that much is...
Oh, no, all that extras was spent on Gene.
Oh, no, it wasn't, because this is the first time you're saying that right here, right now.
I was trying to protect
a write-off? Are you jerking my chain?
I think that was part of the $27,000. Gene, such a pleasure to have you here. It really is. And we want to take advantage of this opportunity to talk about a lot of things going on in the business right now, a business of which you have spent your near entire life. And firstly, I wanted to get your perspective, Gene, on the current state of professional wrestling. A lot of times people get so wrapped up in the week-to-week, the day-to-day of wrestling that we don't get a chance to step back and really look at how the business is overall. So many things have changed in the last few years that have modified the business, the attention span of the audience, the demographics of the audience, and more importantly, the introduction of the WWE Network has really changed the way WWE does business. And you, of course, spending a lot of time still working with WWE on a lot of those productions.
Last week and enjoyed it.
But what would you say, how would you analyze, and what would be your assessment of the current state of professional wrestling?
In my opinion, I think right now professional wrestling is going through a transition period.
Okay.
A lot of the old talent, not quite as prominent as they have been. John Cena, pretty good example.
Yeah.
And Brock Lesnar certainly working a limited schedule. But that's his thing. But I think the business is healthy, and I see it happen in television. Television ratings, they talk about them. They're up, they're down, they're here, they're wherever. But I think the PGA is a pretty good example.
Yeah.
A lot of the great golfers have kind of moved up, and now there's a new batch moving in, and the interest probably isn't at the level that it was 4 or 5 years ago. But it'll come back. There'll be the Jordan Spieths and so forth. And here in wrestling, take a look at the feeder program of NXT.
Yeah, which is also a big change over the last few years.
And that is becoming a very prominent piece of the WWE puzzle. But I think the business is healthy. They're going to introduce a lot of new talent that's going to be coming. And that roster, by the way, is extremely... That is
huge.
A long list.
Yes, it is.
And that's the problem when you have 100 guys and gals that you got to put over. Not quite that easy. So you know, I think that's a problem right now.
I think all that is incredibly fair. But what is your take on the fact that WWE has to program 3 hours of television for Raw every Monday night? Because you look at Raw versus SmackDown. SmackDown's a solid 2-hour program each and every week. And it's more digestible for that reason.
And they don't have to stretch out segments and have 15 or 16-minute matches that
Right.
don't make a difference anyway.
Right.
But, no, I think you're absolutely right. 3 hours is a killer, folks. That is way too long.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't agree with it when it happened, but money's money. Some people are greedy
and they're getting a big
or
paycheck for that.
have shareholders
Yeah.
that they need to satisfy.
Yeah, it's not greed at all. It's that
No,
more so. There's an opportunity to make some revenue.
It is a public company.
Mm-hmm.
So, by the way, I've got some stock in it. You may want to take.
Oh,
a
I've
look
got
at
some.
that.
I'm a shareholder, Gene. Yeah.
And you, David,
Of course, I have his.
No,
stuff.
he
a
doesn't.
boatload. You got his. No, but I think WWE is going through a transition period, but I think it's going to be coming back. Hulk Hogan and myself had dinner last week.
Yeah. How's he doing?
He's doing very well, by the way. If anybody wants an update on it, I'll do it on my hotline.
Oh,
Which,
900-909-9900.
Yeah, has it been cut off because I didn't pay the bill?
No, they didn't pay the bill. They stopped calling.
But I think right now, if you can have a few of the legends, intersperse them with the current roster talent, let them do the rub against each other, and kind of feed off that,
Mhm.
I think we're going to be back in business. And I see things improving vastly. Monday night is a very tough night, too, by
Yeah.
the way.
You talk about ratings, and I think that too much is put behind the ratings that Raw and SmackDown do or do not get. As a matter of fact, these last 2 episodes for the last week were some of the lowest rated shows of the year. And people equate that to the quality of the content on the show, whereas that's not necessarily the case, because even during the Monday Night Wars, one would argue that Nitro wasn't better than Raw when it was winning in the ratings, and that Raw wasn't better than Nitro when it was winning in the ratings, and vice versa. So how do we as fans, them as fans, stop looking at that ratings piece and actually look at the enjoyability they had of the show?
Well, some years ago, somebody made a decision to smarten up the fan base, and they sure have been smartened up.
I think it was that show you did called Confidential.
Confidential, a little bit of it, and that was really stepping on eggshells. But I take a look at it right now as the business. When the fans are looking at ratings, that's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I have always been a proponent of do not look at the ratings, because if you've got a creative idea and you want to stick with your plan, stick with it, and don't let the television ratings 1 week, 2 weeks, or a month, really make a decision for you.
Yeah, fair enough. David, your thoughts, current state of wrestling right now, and especially given some of the things Gene has said.
Gene's absolutely right. I mean, there's no big stars to cheer for because they're all taking time off and doing other things. John Cena, in my opinion, has now become the biggest crossover wrestling talent in the last 20 years.
And he'll be back July 4th on SmackDown, but as a free agent.
And they are promoting that big time.
And they should.
Yeah, I mean, he is the biggest star. He still sells the most tickets. He sells a ton of merchandise, and he's the go-to guy. Like you said, Gene, he's carried that company on his back for over 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, he has, and thank God they had him. But when the decision came after WrestleMania, what are we going to do? Cena.
Yep. Well, folks, we're going to take a time out. When we come back, more conversation on the current state of professional wrestling with Mean Gene Okerlund. As a matter of fact, we just got done talking about John Cena. Next, we're going to talk about Roman Reigns, Gene. A lot of people out there hate his guts. That when we come back here on the Pro Wrestling Report, Prime Time.
Hi, everybody. This is good old JR Jim Ross, WWE Hall of Famer, and you're watching Damon Nelson and David Hero on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report, Prime Time here on Channel 24 in Milwaukee, and, of course, on the Fight TV app and YouTube. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside David Hero and our very special guest this week, Mean Gene Okerlund.
Hall of Famer.
WWE Hall of Famer, legit Hall of Famer, Mean Gene Okerlund. Now, Gene, we just got done talking about the current state of professional wrestling, and one of the subjects in that was the status of one John Cena. Well, there is another superstar who has been playing, I guess you can say, the role of John Cena in the last few years in WWE as the quote-unquote chosen one, and his name is Roman Reigns.
You say that so condescendingly.
Have they not referred to him as the chosen one? They being the fans, the audience, the humanoids?
I mean, you're like trying to bury the guy right off the bat.
No, I was setting up and framing a question for Gene to answer.
Gene, do you feel like he was being condescending?
And the question is?
The question is,
your point is?
Roman Reigns, whether chosen or not, your your assessment of him as a talent overall? Because many have said he's got the look, he's got the talent, he's got the marketability. Why wouldn't he be the guy right now?
Well, I think he is going to be the guy. If you recall vividly, they were going to go someplace a couple of years ago with Roman Reigns. Whatever the reason, somebody put on the brakes. But I think the time is right now. This guy he's got the look, but he's got more than that.
He looks almost as good as you.
Yeah, well, wait till I get that new rug.
Her club for men?
Right, yeah, club for men. But anyway, I think this guy, if he is promoted properly in the ring, with angles, with the right people, he's going to happen. And he could be the next John Cena, conceivably. Certainly, he's got it in his family history.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of winners there.
He's one of those, we heard this past Monday on Raw, Paul Heyman talking about the Samoan family dynasty in wrestling and how one man is outside that dynasty, being Samoa Joe, who we'll talk about in a moment. But he does come from great lineage and great background. But what does it mean when people say, you know, that there's a push and that there is a chosen one? Because one would argue that the same treatment that Roman Reigns is getting now is what Hogan got. It's what Flair got. It's what Cena got. It's what Austin got. It's what Rock got. But seemingly it's different as it pertains to Reigns in this scenario from the fans' point of view. So if you were the man, which you are, according to me anyways, but if you were the man making that booking decision of who to push, if you will, who you were going to build your company around, what are you looking for? What are the aspects of the talent that you want to see in that lead guy?
Well, if we take a look at past history, the Hogans, the Flairs, the acceptability, the believability, that they had as a brand within the big brand, I say Roman Reigns has got a great chance of succeeding, and it's going to be up to the company, minds like Pat Patterson, John Laurinaitis, certainly Vince McMahon, but they're going to have to make some very important decisions on how this guy is, if you want to use the term, pushed, how he's going to be pushed. I don't know how much of a push he's going to really need.
Yeah.
I think if everything is put in place the right way, that's the push. Organization, always a big part of developing a character like Roman Reigns. I say character, I mean the next, I guess, the guy that's going to carry the weight of the company on his shoulders.
Yeah. Question for you, Gene, as it pertains to that. And Dave, do you have any questions, follow up on Roman Reigns? I mean, you're barely over there.
Gene he's killing it this week.
Well, he kills it every week. He's a professional.
You know what it is?
We're broadcast journalists.
It's nice that I don't have to carry the show.
Oh,
glad
for the
Gene's
love
here.
of Christ.
So it's almost a night off.
Gene, I think, you know, you've known Dave for a number of years, and I apologize for that, but you also know about his ego problems.
Well, you know, you guys are a little hard on each other.
No, he's hard on me.
I happen to like both of you.
He likes me more.
And your acceptability,
He is
in
acceptable.
my eyes,
Hey,
is
I'm the
very
guy.
good. But here's the thing. You got to get some extended time on storylines. And with Roman Reigns, you can't just do opponent after opponent after opponent, names or not. You've got to have an extended time where there is a story that can be told both in the ring and on television behind a camera for this guy to make it to the top. And fans to really be able to sink their teeth into him.
Gene, let me put you on the spot here for a moment and ask you a direct question. Biggest star in the history of professional wrestling by all degrees and measures of the following names: Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Steve Austin, The Rock, John Cena. The Rock.
The Rock. Oh, The Rock.
Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson.
Yes. And John Cena. Of those five guys, who is the bigger star of them all by all measures? So marketability, believability, all the things you just said. Who's the biggest?
Well, you got to take a look. All five of those, by the way, are very legitimate superstars and have made a mark already on wrestling. But my choice, not just because like these hearings we're seeing between Comey and Mueller, you know, who's friends.
Yeah, you're not wrapped up in that, are you?
Not because I'm a friend of Hulk Hogan's but there's no question in my mind
Without a doubt.
that he was a marquee guy that really put professional wrestling when it was shoved into the mainstream, and boy, did he sell it. He worked his rear end off for a lot of years, paying for it now, by the way. But
He knocked down a lot of doors.
no, he to me just the guy, the marquee guy. All of those other names are great.
Are there really three guys that really transcend even professional wrestling? Meaning their names are mentioned and it's not WWE, it's that name. Austin, Hogan, and The Rock. Those are three household names. And Hogan, since the 1980s, has still remained and still is a household name, more so than the other two. So definitely valid in here.
He's been very prominent in a lot of different news stories as of late. But I think he's been kind of on the shelf here.
Oh, yeah.
He's been making appearances around the country and around the world, for that matter. But I truly believe that Hulk Hogan is going to be back in some capacity. Certainly he can't work in the ring, but there's so many things he can do. He could be the elder statesman, the real kind of voice,
He could be the
if
Pete
you
Rose
will,
for baseball.
of all of those eras.
Now, I know I didn't dial the 900 number, but I want to try to get a scoop from you. Is it okay? The Undertaker.
I need the money.
The Undertaker. We saw him defeated by Roman Reigns at WrestleMania in Orlando this year. You were there, and you were part of that whole experience. Is he done? Is The Undertaker retired? Because they haven't explicitly said that The Undertaker has hung it up. However, he left his gear in the ring. He lost twice now at WrestleMania, once to Brock Lesnar, once to Roman Reigns. Is this it for The Undertaker? Or if not, what's the next chapter?
By the way, the cake is done. Roman Reigns, Undertaker, is not finished.
Oh.
He's gonna be back, and he also will be back in some capacity. You take a look at the five people that you mentioned. All have had a little rub with Hollywood. Certainly, the most successful to date has got to be Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. But I mean, Steve Austin has been in a number of different movies. Hogan will tell you himself that maybe it wasn't really the exact thing he should have been doing.
Suburban Commando?
Yeah, right.
Thunder in Paradise.
Yeah, right. And big guy
But
Santa Claus.
the times are different, though. Hogan's era was different from Flair's era, which was different from Austin and The Rock's era, which is different from Cena's era. And while the wrestling business itself, people say it has evolved and changed, it really hasn't at its core, has it? But the times have changed, and the people and the fans have evolved.
Yeah, the fans know so much more of the inside of the operation. Now, I don't know. There was rumor years ago, like JR, my good friend Jim Ross, got caught probably disseminating some of this
He's admitted that.
confidential business, and he told the wrong people, that's for sure, because the minute it came out of his mouth, it was in print.
Yeah, right.
or on the air.
Yep.
But I think that the batch of guys you talked about, Cena has been an actor and a wrestler simultaneously. David, you and I talked about this. The Rock was a guy that really started his acting career after he got out of wrestling.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And I mean, we got to say, in all due respect, he has done fabulous. He's got to be the king of all of the wrestling talent when it comes to cinema. Ric Flair. Ric Flair is not a movie guy. No. But
He's a bar guy.
Yeah, he's a bar guy and a damn good one.
Right? He's had a career in marriages.
Just the first 7 alone makes a pretty healthy career. But no, ladies were a big part of Ric Flair. He likes the ladies, but he likes a lot of people.
Yeah.
And he is a fun guy to be around. And his merriment in a good bar becomes contagious. Because when I walk out of there, I notice everybody is sideways.
Folks, our guest this week is Mean Gene Okerlund, and always a pleasure to have Gene in the studio. We've talked about a lot so far, but we're going to take a time out. When we come back, more discussion on what's happening in the world of wrestling today, including thoughts on Dusty Rhodes, who, of course, we're celebrating the anniversary of his passing this week, and much, much more. Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time continues right here on Channel 14 in Milwaukee. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time here in episode number 812. Damian Nelson, David Hero, and Mean Gene Okerlund. Gene, how's life?
Life for me is very good. I have never been unhappy. I've been doing what I like to do, love to do, and meeting great people like you. And I mean, when you travel, you get yourself a lot of friends. And our relationship has developed here to the point where we can have more fun, just the three of us. Maybe throw Linda or somebody in, so we have a little
or somebody, right?
for the old timer. But no, my life is very good. I'm happy. I've got grandchildren. My golf game is in the tank.
Yeah.
But outside of that, all is good.
Have you been giving Tiger any tips? I know you guys live in the same area.
Well, I've been giving him some tips. Don't drive when you're tanked. No, I mean, I've had an occasional cocktail and gotten behind the wheel. Not a good thing.
Right. Gene, let's talk about another thing here, and that is I want to hear a story or two about a man whose life we've been celebrating for a very long time, but of course over the last 2 years since his passing, it's become more vivid for us, the memories of one Dusty Rhodes. And you worked with him in many different companies for many different years, and while we know how great he was as the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, many of us don't know how great he was for the business overall and the talents he built, made, and developed. What's your initial memory thought of Dusty Rhodes?
Number one, I love the guy. And we had differences of opinion, very seriously, where a lot of strong language came out when I was in WCW. But a lot of people were grasping for straws. And I think Dusty, to get around all of the framework of that operation, when people from Turner Sports and the upper echelon people would start showing up, and saying, we're going to help you develop this show. Mm-hmm. Creatively, Brad Siegel came over from TNT.
TV
Dr.
guys.
Harvey Schiller, TV guys or AOL guys.
Yeah.
Didn't know the first thing about wrestling or live television shows. And that's what it is. It's live television. But that's the way it is, and I think it's going to be changed somewhat.
Dusty was a huge influence as well down in NXT. And a lot of stars, most notably, I think Bayley, you could say, have talked about the influence that he had on their career. Kevin Owens as well. And you look at the fact that we've got another generation of Rhodeses in the business right now. Cody Rhodes, of course, who is working all over the world, primarily in Ring of Honor right now, doing some time in Japan as well. And Dustin Rhodes, Gold Dust, who is seeing a renaissance for his career as well. It's probably the best he's ever been as far as in-ring action.
He's a hell of a worker. They both are. And I think you've got to credit Dusty with that.
Absolutely.
Because he was a taskmaster. Not to be
Kevin Sullivan.
mistaken with Kevin Sullivan. Or Shorty, as we call him. Yeah. But, no, the kids are great. Mm-hmm. I hope that Cody eventually comes back. I don't know if that's going to happen. Right now I don't see it. But I hope, for the sake of both the organization, WWE, and for Cody, that they get him back some way, somehow.
So when you were there when Dusty came in the first time with the polka dots, what was your thought, seeing the American Dream show up like that with Sapphire?
I think somebody was going to get paid back for all of the sneaky things they did behind Vince's back. And no question. I mean, first thing he did was for Ted DiBiase was to name his manager or
Virgil.
His sidekick, Virgil, and that, of course, is Dusty Rhodes' real name, Virgil Runnels, as we know. Everybody knows now.
But what was Dusty doing back then to get under the skin of Vince McMahon?
Well, I think that is a compilation of things that happened over the course of one man's career, and I would say the 20 years that Dusty Rhodes actively was a opponent, a hindrance, a problem for the WWF, WWE.
He was a competition.
He was a competition.
He had the South.
Yeah, and he did have the South, a lot of cowboys, a lot of Indians. But the one thing is the names. Starcade. Mm-hmm. Great American Bash, that's still around.
Clash of
but
Champions.
yeah. There a lot of the names and everything had kind of a cowboy connotation, if you will, and that was part of Dusty. Dusty was a cowboy. He came out of West Texas State, out in Amarillo, worked with the Funks, certainly worked with the late great. Who in the hell would come in here with a cell phone on?
I think that's the hotline ringing. You better. It's back in business, Gene.
Dick Murdoch, though, was another one of the great names out there.
Yeah.
And at one time, Dick and Dusty were a great tag team.
Right, absolutely, for a long time. Yeah.
Dusty was so good behind a microphone, and I'll never forget. He says, I was laying in bed, and I got funky like a monkey, and all of the things he did. But he said, I said to my wife, she said, what's that pounding? Grabbed his heart, and he said, it's the heartbeat of America. And just the way he said it.
Yep.
You know, I don't do a good Dusty.
Yeah.
But there are, and he could really paint a picture, both verbally and physically.
Yeah.
With that elbow.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure that the late great Randy Savage probably picked that up from Dusty Rhodes because he came first.
Well, great thoughts on a great man that was Dusty Rhodes. And, you know, Gene, it's so great to have you here and talk the business with you because sometimes, as I said, get a little too deep into it and you don't have that perspective to step back and just look at what's going on out there and what the world of wrestling is. And wrestling is in a good place right now. Who cares about the ratings? Who cares about all the other numbers, if you will? And quite frankly, if you look at those numbers, WWE is doing better than it ever has from a revenue and profit standpoint.
I mean, if I could say one thing.
Absolutely you can.
Through the history of the business, I've been in it 46 years, and I've seen it go like this, like this, like this, and that's a pattern.
Yeah.
It is a pattern.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gene, as we close out the show here, I want to say thank you. Thank you as my mentor, who I am now honored to be able to call a friend. And thank you for all that you have done for us. Thank you for being a part of this program here today.
My pleasure.
And I look forward to the next time we see you again, sir.
You know, all this doesn't happen if we don't go to Vegas. And see what we did here?
How so?
$27,000.
It was a hell of a run, though, wasn't it?
It was. And I got a feeling I might have been the write-off.
Ladies and gentlemen, for that one and the legendary WWE Hall of Famer, me and Gene Okerlund, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for joining us here for Primetime on Channel 14.